man, we didn't play smart enough today. That was reflected in the penalty game. We didn't execute enough today, making routine plays routinely. We dropped the ball. We gave up a deep ball in situational play. There's enough to go around, and we take responsibility for that. It is what it is.
Hi everyone, I'm Missi Matthews. Welcome to the Extra Point presented by Microsoft Surface. The Steelers losing back-to-back home games, falling to the Cincinnati Bengals 24-10 on Sunday. Let's break it down for you by introducing first my panelists today, Bob Labriola of Steelers.com and Steelers Digest. We have former Steelers quarterback. Also, you can hear him on the DV postgame show, Charlie Batch. And we also have former Steelers outside linebacker Arthur Moats, Hall of Famer, field named after you. We've got it all going on here, guys, but not a pretty picture for the Steelers as we sit here the second non-victory Monday. They're sitting at 1-2. So I want to start generically here, just overall, given what has happened and transpired the past 2 weeks. Do you stay the course or do you start to try and shake things up? Labs, we'll start with you.
Well, there are limited changes, I think, that you can make at this stage, of an NFL regular season. You can adjust, I think, some of your personnel in the sense that, who gets the more playing time during games, the roles, adjust some things like that. But there's no magic bullets out there, free agents who are going to come in on ride in on a white horse and solve all the problems. I mean, you can't change the fundamental offensive or defensive systems at this point. You don't have the kind of practice time to implement new things in those areas, because during the regular season, you're working throughout the week to get ready for the next opponent because you're trying to win a game every week. So, changes, I wouldn't use the word changes. I would use the word adjustments. But then there are also things that are either part of your fundamental belief in how you want to play, or fundamental concepts of your offense and defense that you kind of just have to keep working on to improve them.
All right, Charlie, are you staying the course or are you shaking it up as we head into week 4, heading to Lambeau Field against the Green Bay Packers?
Well, I'm staying the course, and that's only because injuries right now and the way this roster is, there's not a lot of moves to be made because of that. Now, if everybody's healthy, then that's a different conversation. But at this particular point, you stay the course. You have to figure out, okay, whose fault it is. And the reason why you cannot change at this particular point, at least replace somebody, because if you do, you're telling that is the reason why we're losing if you replace a particular player. And I don't think they're in a state right now that they can turn around now and start finger pointing. They're all in this together. They have a chance to right the ship to get to 500 this week. So right now is not panic mode. As you say, you stay the course.
All right, Moats, which way are you falling?
For me, I can hear what Labs is saying, I can hear what Charlie is saying, but I do think you make changes, and not necessarily the big ones that everybody likes to talk about. Oh, switch your quarterback. I'm not going that route, but I do think there are personnel changes that you can make offensively and defensively in terms of guys that you feel aren't consistent enough or their effort might be in question. That should never be the case at this level. And when you watch the tape, at times that shows up. And I think that's something that in terms of changes being made, that's something that they could definitely do. And I also think from personal experience with Coach Tomlin, I believe it was 2015 season, we started out, under 500 at one point. We made changes, but it didn't relate to who was starting and who wasn't. It became more so he's going to be a jerk in practice. If you're not on the line at 3 o'clock on the dot, we're going to find you. If you're not there at whatever time was right on the dot, we're going to get after you. And those are the things that he did to implement more discipline. You talk about penalties, that's a discipline-related thing. You talk about lack of catching consistently, that's discipline. That's your eyes just being fundamental and doing the things that you're, what you have done your whole life to get here. I think those are the changes that could be made that I think could at least give them a little bit more positivity in the short term.
All right, Labs, one of the things we heard about from Coach Tomlin, of course, the penalties. The Steelers had 10 for 73 yards. The Bengals also had 10 for 89 yards, I should add. But, just the way that they happened, the drive killers, what did you see in terms of the penalties and the turnovers yesterday?
Well, I mean, the penalties, the offensive penalties early in the game, really, as you mentioned, drive killers, they're momentum killers. They prevent you from converting third downs, which prevents an offense from being able to continually run plays and try and get into some kind of a rhythm, not only for themselves a rhythm, but into a rhythm against that particular opponent. And so, the pre-snap penalties, those kinds of things, as has been mentioned, that's discipline. If the snap count is 2, know how to count to 2. I mean, it's really, there's not a whole lot involved in that beyond, paying attention and staying disciplined. Some of the other things, maybe it's a result of sloppy technique. Some of the holding penalties, maybe guys either getting tired or being defeated one-on-one. They get sloppy with their technique. You kind of have to find a way to fight through some of that stuff so that you can continue to do the things the way they need to be done to stay away from penalty flags.
All right, we had a chance to hear from quarterback Ben Roethlisberger following yesterday's loss. Let's take a listen.
I'm not gonna point the fingers at anybody else. I'll point the thumb at myself and try and get it figured out. I'm a little stumped by it. I'm frustrated. I'm hurt. I hate losing. I'm never gonna quit and give up. And I think it's just it's frustrating because I know the work that we all put in, and myself and the other guys and Coach Canada and the other coaches. We're busting our butt. We're having great days of practice. We're having great walkthroughs, good meetings. So. Just hope at some point it clicks for us.
All right, Charlie, I know you heard his entire interview after the game. Frustrated, stumped by it. Ben very well. What did you see from him in the offense yesterday and just the struggles that are continuing to happen?
Yeah, it's tough. And you talk about starting fast. And Steelers, of course, they come out first 2 drives. They had 3 penalties and 21 yards. That's not the manner that you want to start a game. And that's frustrating from his perspective. And just watching it, you can see kind of the ebb and flow of the game. He wants to push the tempo. That's not happening. So I just think Ben Roethlisberger, Matt Canada, they need to sit down specifically on Monday and Tuesday to say, hey, what is the game plan? What does it look like moving forward? And if for some reason in the middle of the game, I want to go no huddle, at least allow me the flexibility of changing the play at the line of scrimmage. Right now, he just does not have that. And it just gets to the point where you can see the kind of frustration happening, but these things happen when you're not winning in that manner. So they have to figure this out, and it starts with communication.
Charlie, just a follow-up for you. Can you go back to maybe a team or an offense where things didn't gel right away and you were able to see them overcome?
It's been a while since I've been in that situation, but I think, it just kind of takes you back to 2012 whenever Todd Haley was first hired, and there was a little bit of frustration because we weren't as effective offensively in the manner that we would like to be. But that conversation happened. Todd Haley and Ben Roethlisberger got together. They were able to pick that tempo up, and we were able to kind of put some wins together during the course of the season. So it just kind of, it's unprecedented at this point, especially when you have someone sitting at 18 years, knowing the offense in and out, and yet a new offense is here. Yes, terminology is different, but ultimately at the end of the day, it comes down to wins and losses. And right now, this duo that you have with the coordinator and a quarterback combination right now, they're 1-2, and that's not the start that they wanted.
All right, Arthur, as Coach Tomlin always says, the other guys get paid too. So what did the Bengals defensive front do to really create havoc for the Steelers offense that is already having its own issues?
To me, I thought the biggest difference was their effort. I thought that they finished plays a lot better. I thought we had good position at times, especially in our pass protection, but it just looked like we got a little bit just lackadaisical towards the end part of these plays, and that's what led to the holding penalties, right? You see a guy, good protection. Ben steps this way because it's a little bit later. He's extending the play, and because that old lineman just relaxed a little bit, you put yourself in a compromising position. And to me, I thought that was the biggest difference, running game and passing game. I just thought those guys had a little bit more urgency, and it was kind of disheartening to see that, especially when you remember how they played last week. And this was supposed to be the game where they get right, where they show, hey, we're not going to accept this level of play. We're not going to be fine with Ben getting hit the way that he's been getting hit. To see another week where effort was in question a little bit, I just wasn't really happy about that.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here on the Extra Point presented by Microsoft Surface. When we return, the Steelers defense got their first interception of the season, but big plays becoming an issue once again. We'll break that down for you. We'll be right back.
If we want to be a successful defense, we got to get off the field, can't have penalties, can't give up big plays. And, you know, for our younger guys and just for our team in general, this is what not to do, you know, and what better ways to learn from it.
Everyone, welcome back to the Extra Point presented by Microsoft Surface. Time to talk a little Steelers defense. Moats, we'll start with you here. We also heard from Cam saying hopefully this is the worst loss, the worst game that we'll see this season. What's your biggest takeaway from their performance yesterday?
Yeah, to me, the biggest takeaway was the injuries up front really cost them in terms of just their ability to create the natural pressure that they're typically accustomed to creating. I thought that part lacked. And then just the tackling, right? We know in terms of the touchdown that they scored at the beginning of the game, just got to wrap up, right? Finish plays a little bit better. To me, that was my, just initial reaction to that. I thought the injuries, though, were just a little bit too much for them to overcome yesterday.
Charlie, we like to say injuries aren't an excuse, but they did have some substantial ones on defense, specifically TJ Watt. He's played 8 career games with the Steelers against the Bengals. He's had 7.5 sacks. What did you see from the defense yesterday?
Well, it just lets me know that, or lets everybody know that pass rush and coverage, they go hand in hand. And no matter how good the back end is, if you're not putting pressure on the quarterback, any quarterback can sit back and throw the football in the manner that Joe Burrow was able to do. You go back to that touchdown pass that was scored in the red zone. Burrow had 5, 6, 7 seconds to throw the football. There was no way that Joe Hayden can cover in that particular manner. So they just have to figure out a way to get back to getting after the quarterback. But unfortunately, when you don't have the pass rushers in the manner that they started the season with, now guess what? These young guys have to step up in the manner of quickly, because they're no longer rookies at this point. They have to step up and get it done, because we quite frankly don't know how much longer TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith is going to be out.
Labs, in terms of giving up the big plays, Charlie mentioned a few of them there. What did you see from the Steelers defense, even though this is something Coach Tomlin harped on the previous week and we saw again yesterday?
Well, oftentimes what happens in situations where, a team is trying to replace significant injured players, you'll have some of the other significant players on the unit thinking, well, I got to pick up the slack personally. I have to do something, to make up for the absence of TJ Watt or the absence of Alex Highsmith, or just in general, the absence of the pass rush. I think we saw that in the game against the Raiders, that 3rd and 10. I believe Minkah Fitzpatrick felt he needed to make a big play on that 3rd and 10 situation. And so, maybe based on video study or whatever, he believed that the Raiders were going to go to Darren Waller in that situation. And so when the route kind of set up where it looked like they might be going in at the sticks, Minkah bit. Henry Ruggs runs past him. Carr puts the ball on the money, and it's a 61-yard touchdown pass. I mean, I believe that would be an inclination of a great player to try and do something great to help his team in a critical situation. But you also have to be careful not to get caught trying to do too much, because the opponent will take advantage of that.
Moats, I want to go back to you since we're talking defense. I know personnel has changed due to injuries, but are the Steelers doing anything different than what they did in terms defensively against the Bills, where they got that win week 1?
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about them against the Bills, they were able to create a ton of pressure without having to blitz. And that's significant because you never have to lose a person in coverage, right? Typically, when you're blitzing, you're going to say, hey, I'm going to take away a coverage guy and add to this rush. Whereas now, it's a little bit flipped, right? Because yesterday they couldn't just generate normal organic pressure with the front four. They had to go a little bit to the blitzing route. And when you do that, if your coverage is lacking in any way, shape, or form, now you're going to be taking a guy away and putting those guys in a little bit more compromising position. But it still doesn't excuse the fact that you still have to operate, right? You still got to play with your normal routine in terms of your technique of fundamentals. If you're supposed to be pressed up and getting hands on these receivers, you can't allow them to have free releases. They are great athletes, right? And when you allow them to just free release and run and be these athletes, they're going to win a lot of those times like that. And that to me also stood out when we talk about that defense in the secondary as well.
Charlie, Coach always talks about complementary football, and we haven't really seen, other than that Buffalo game, the defense helping the offense and vice versa. Do you feel like the defense is trying to do too much, knowing that the offense is struggling to maybe find their rhythm?
That's possible in this situation. And I really thought coming into this game that time of possession was going to be key. If the Steelers offense was able to control the time of possession, giving that defense a break. Unfortunately, that was not the formula, because the Steelers did control the time of possession. So yes, this defense is trying to do a little bit too much. Somebody trying to make a play, just to try to get things going on that side of the ball. And sometimes that's costing them in the back end, giving up big plays. So they just have to get back to staying fundamentally sound, staying within your gaps, not allowing those big runs to pop. If you play your sound football and do your job, focus on that. And let's go out there. If we all do that, then that means you'll have a little bit more success.
All right, guys, thanks for helping me break down the Bengals game. Coach Tomlin will have his press conference on Tuesday at noon. You can watch it live here. Thanks for joining us here today on the Extra Point presented by Microsoft Surface. We'll see everybody here next Monday.
What's up, Steeler Nation? It's Terrell Edmonds. Welcome to the Pittsburgh Steelers official YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to our channel to stay up to date on everything going on in the Steel City. Thanks for being the best fans in football, and here we go.